Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're reading from Canto 5, Chapter 17, Text 2. And the chapter is entitled The Descent of the Ganges. So we're going to hear about what the Ganges River is. And it's very, very significant in relationship to Krishna and devotional service. And we're going to hear about what that is. The Ganges is not an ordinary river. So we're on text 2. Dhruva Maharaj, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanapada, is known as the most exalted devotee of the Supreme Lord because of his firm determination in executing devotional service. Knowing that the sacred Ganges water washes the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Dhruva Maharaj, situated on his own planet, to this very day accepts that water on his head with great devotion, because he constantly thinks of Krishna very devoutly within the core of his heart. He's overcome with ecstatic anxiety. Tears flow from his half-open eyes, and eruptions appear on his entire body. Dhruva Maharaj, who had the darshan of the Lord at a very young age, he took shelter of Narada Muni, followed Narada Muni's instructions for meditating on the Lord. The Lord was pleased by his following Narada's instructions. And Narada also made a personal direct appeal to Lord Vishnu to please deliver Dhruva Maharaj. And so the Lord appeared before Dhruva, and Dhruva was only 5 years old. Very determined spirit, 5-year-old. And he had the darshan of the Lord, and all his desires were fulfilled. He had no more material desires. He was completely Krishna conscious. The Lord gave him his own planet, Dhruva Loka, and that planet is not destroyed during any of the devastations, the partial devastations. Just as Lord Brahma's planet is not destroyed when there's a partial devastation. I don't know if it remains, if it's actually in the spiritual sky or not. I'm not sure, but I know it doesn't get, I remember hearing that it doesn't become destroyed when there's a partial devastation. It may even be in the spiritual sky, and I'm not sure of that. Prabhupada's commentary: when a person is firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's described as Virata Vrata, fully determined. Such a devotee increases his ecstasy in devotional service more and more. Thus, as soon as he remembers Lord Vishnu, his eyes fill with tears. This is a symptom of a Maha Bhagavat. Dhruva Maharaj maintained himself in that devotional ecstasy, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave us a practical example of transcendental ecstasy when he lived at Jagannath Puri. His pastimes are fully narrated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Dhruva Maharaj was situated in transcendental ecstasy, and tears flowing from his half-open eyes, and eruptions appear on his body. And it's because of his firm determination in executing devotional service. Text 3. The 7 great sages, Marichi, Vashishta, Atri, and so on, reside on planets beneath Dhruvaloka. Well aware of the influence of the water of the Ganges, to this day they keep Ganges water on the tufts of hair on their heads. They have concluded that this is the ultimate wealth, the perfection of all austerities, and the best means of prosecuting transcendental life. Having obtained uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they neglect all other beneficial processes like religion, economic development, sense gratification, and even merging into the Supreme. Just as Jnanis think that merging into the existence of the Lord is the highest truth, these 7 exalted personalities accept devotional service as the perfection of life. Prabhupada's commentary. Transcendentalists are divided into 2 primary groups: the Nirvisheshavadis, or impersonalists, and the Bhaktas, or the devotees. The impersonalists do not accept spiritual varieties of life. They want to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord in his Brahman feature, the Brahmajyoti. The devotees, however, desire to take part in the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. In the upper planetary system, the topmost planet is Dhruvaloka. Beneath Dhruvaloka are the 7 planets occupied by great sages, beginning with Marichi, Vashishta, and Atri. All these sages regard devotional service as the highest perfection of life. Therefore, they all carry the holy water of the Ganges on their heads. This verse proves that for one who has achieved the platform of pure devotional service, nothing else is important, even so-called liberation. Srila Sridhar Swami states that only by achieving pure devotional service of the Lord can one give up all other engagements as insignificant. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has perfectly enunciated and broadcast the process of bhakti yoga. Consequently, for one who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest perfection of the Mayavadis, Kaivalya, or becoming one with the Supreme, is considered hellish, to say nothing of the karmi's aspiration to be promoted to the heavenly planets. Devotees consider such goals to be worthless phantasmagoria. There are also yogis who try to control their senses, but they can never succeed without coming to the stage of devotional service. The senses are compared to poisonous snakes, but the senses of a bhakta engaged in the service of the Lord are like snakes with their poison fangs removed. The yogi tries to suppress his senses, but even great mystics like Vishvamrita fail in the attempt. Vishvamrita was conquered by his senses when he was captivated by Menaka during his meditation. She later gave birth to Sakuntala. The wisest persons in the world, therefore, are the bhakti yogis, as Lord Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita. Yoginam api sarvesham madgyatanat ratmana Shradavan bhajate omam samayukta tamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. So there's a nice summary here of the different processes that transcendentalists and those aspiring for perfection take, and then the conclusion of why the highest of them is bhakti yoga. So first, they're the Mayavadis, who simply seek liberation from material suffering, liberation from material concept of life. And they desire to merge into the spiritual energy, become one with the spiritual energy, the Brahmajyoti. Now the Brahmajyoti is an aspect of Krishna, and it is a transcendental aspect of Krishna. It's said to be like his effulgence, his glow, the energy emanating from him, undifferentiated, his aura, his that surrounds him, this glow. And so they desire to go no further than that. They just want to hang out in this Brahmajyoti, in this spiritual glow, which really, there's actually no pleasure there. There are no activities there. There's no service there. It's just getting away from the material energy, but not really taking part in the spiritual energy. A nice example is if there's a party going on and it's a really obnoxious party, people are really horrible in the party, the person might go out into the hallway, close the door and go out into the hallway and just stay there in the hallway. When down the hallway there's another party going on, which is quite nice. They're very civilized and people are enjoying nicely each other's company like that. So trying to get to this Brahmajyoti is like getting out of this horrible, horrible party, which is just giving everyone a headache and making everyone sick. Just get out of it and then just hang out in the hallway with nothing to do. So yeah, there's relief from the bad activities, but where are the desirable activities? They're down the hallway in another, you have to go through another door to get to it. So liberation's been compared to something like that, just hanging out in the hallway. And it's not a position that, since we're spiritual beings and we're eternal, that we're eternally inclined to remain there. At some point we want to become active again, because that's our nature, is to be active. So without going higher and going further and approaching Krishna more closely, so that we can get into his actually personal dimension with Krishna, then we have to fall back down and go back into a bad party somewhere with undesirable activities going on, just for the sake of being active and interacting with others. So it's not a complete step. It can be a jumping off point to go further into devotional service. And many personalities have been able to do that. It's said that Sukadeva Goswami was liberated. He was in that liberated state before he was even born. Even within the womb of his mother, he was in that liberated state. And he had no desire to even be born. He just remained in his mother's womb for an incredibly long period of time. I forget how many years he remained. It was like years, maybe like 16 years or something like that. He didn't even want to come out. What's the sense of coming out? And his father, Vyāsadeva, the compiler of Srimad Bhagavatam, began to read to him the glories and the pastimes about the personality of Godhead. And then Sukadeva came out of the womb and he was already 16 years old. We don't try to visualize this with our present senses. We take this as, these not ordinary occurrences. And they didn't happen, last week or anything. We're talking fantastic amounts of time ago. So, so much for liberation. Also the Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma, who choose to travel throughout the universe in the form of little boys, 5-year-old boys, although they're almost as old as the universe is. They always appear as children, small children. And they also were completely liberated, but in the Brahma Jyoti, the undifferentiated spiritual energy of the Lord. And they approached Lord Vishnu, and they had the fragrance of the tulsi leaves on the Lord's feet. And they became attracted to Lord Vishnu through the tulsi manjaris and tulsi leaves, the fragrance of tulsi on the Lord's feet. And they gained access to Krishna, the personal dimension, that way. And that's because tulsi is a pure devotee. And that is, like all the pure devotees, they're always the well-wishers of everyone. They want to see the conditioned souls and those that have not made connection with the divine, devotional, spiritual personality of Godhead. They want to see them make that connection because that pleases Krishna. So Tulsi is a pure devotee like that. And she does so many wonderful things. Her service is so pure. Everything about Tulsi. The devotees chant Krishna's name on her wood. Her bark is made, her wood, her stem, her trunk, whatever, is made into the Tulsi beads. The devotees chant. And then she remains around the necks of the devotees with her smaller little branches. They are strung into little beads, and devotees wear those little Tulsi branches made into beads around their necks. And for the deity, serving the deity, he accepts food only if there's a Tulsi in the deity worship in the temple, only if there's Tulsi on each preparation. He likes. And at the time of death, when the person is leaving, if they're so fortunate, they receive Ganges water and a Tulsi leaf in their mouth as they're leaving. So Tulsi is she's very wonderful like that. So if we plant Tulsi, or we sow Tulsi, or we water Tulsi, she'll give us so much special mercy. Not an ordinary living entity. Someone once said, what good is it? I can see an eggplant. You get a nice eggplant, you can make sabji. But what is Tulsi? Tulsi's not like that. She's not a tomato plant or an eggplant. She's a devotional plant. And her fruits and her flowers are love of God. So we can appreciate the fruits on that tree and the flowers on that tree like that. So much for the goal of liberation. And then the other paths and the other goals, actually it says here, Prabhupada says, a devotee becoming one with the Supreme is considered hellish. It's hellish. You want to become one with the Supreme, lose your individuality and your identity, and not be able to perceive the personality and identity of Krishna. How horrible. How horrible. It's hellish. It's just terrible. Not at all attracted. Completely averse to anything like that. And then he says, and then the karmis, they aspire to be promoted to heavenly planets, to enjoy all kinds of phantasmagoria. It's like people save up they work and work and work, they save up so they can go to the country fair and ride the Ferris wheel and eat all the stuff and all the flashing lights, and they can go with their partner and get some thrills. The heavenly planets are really quite something for sense gratification. It's the ultimate in material sense gratification. The ultimate. We were just reading in the previous chapter that there are mangoes, some kind of fruit, the size of an elephant, and it falls on the ground and it makes a river of mango juice. And then there are rivers of some other kind of substance that's golden, and when it dries on the banks, it becomes gold. So everyone has gold, and they have mango juice, and there's rivers of yogurt and rivers of honey, and you can just imagine, and the sense gratification. The fragrance of the air is perfumed, because those who drink this mango juice, their bodies give off a certain wonderful perfume, and a totally intoxicating atmosphere. I don't know what to speak of, the other types of sense gratification. So, but devotee's not interested. They're not being promoted to a heavenly planet. It's like going to the state fair. Who wants to go there? And the other thing is, it can't remain there. After all the pious credits are used up, enjoying, it's like the vacation, and you have to go back down to the lower planets and try to accrue more pious activities. So you can go back again. So you work and vacation, it's horrible. Who wants that? In the meanwhile, there's birth, death, old age, and disease. Although on the heavenly planets we were reading, there's just birth and death. There's actually no old age and no disease, at least on some of these heavenly planets. But there is birth and death. So death does come. Boop, finished. Now where do you go? Back down. Used up your pious credits. So, Prabhupada says, devotees consider these goals to be worthless phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria. Razzle dazzle. And then there's the yogis. And they try to control their senses by suppression. They don't engage their senses, they try to suppress their senses. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the example Prabhupada gives of Vishvamrita, and he was so powerful like that. He had suppressed his senses so incredibly. And then Menaka, heavenly society girl, one of these society girls from one of these heavenly planets. You can just imagine, or try to visualize if possible, how overwhelming her presence must have been for all of his senses. But he heard her ankle bells. Forget the yoga from the last who knows how many thousands of years. I want that. Couldn't control his senses. And also there was the yogi under the water, meditating under the water. I can't recall his name, but for thousands of years performing tremendous austerities underwater, holding his breath. And he saw some fishes swim by, and they were engaging in intimate activities. And that's it. Let me out. Let me out. He couldn't control his senses. So, the way to control the senses is through bhakti yoga. Not to suppress the senses, but to engage them in Krishna's service. We don't stop eating, but we take food that is the mercy of the Lord, prasadam, Krishna food, Krishna-ized food. It's not that there's no sex, there is sex, but in family life regulated for producing nice children. It's not that we don't look at anything. No, we see the beautiful form of the deity. And we see the devotees, who are also quite beautiful when they're engaged in devotional service. And then wherever we look, we can see Krishna. In the heart of all living beings, the life of all that lives, the source of everything, we can see Krishna. So we practice like that. That's bhakti yoga. Transform, the material situation becomes transformed and purified, spiritualized by contact with the devotional energy. See, that's what's missing in all of this, is the devotional service. Those that are striving for liberation, the Mayavadis, there's no devotional service there. They're just concerned about themselves. How am I going to? It's still, I am still the center. And the karmis, who cares about Krishna? I just want to go and enjoy. And the yogis, I just want to control my senses and become very powerful and get all kinds of mystic powers. There's no devotion. When one comes in contact with the devotional energy, the divine energy, then everything's transformed. So that's what devotional service is. It's coming in contact with the devotional energy and transforming everything into spiritual energy. It's a transformer. Text 4. After purifying the 7 planets near Dhruvaloka, the pole star, the Ganges water is carried through the spaceways of the demigods in billions of celestial airplanes. Then it inundates the moon, Chandraloka, and finally reaches Lord Brahma's abode atop Mount Meru. So we're following the descent of the Ganges. When Lord Krishna appeared as Vamanadev and asked for 3 steps of land from King Bali, Vamanadev was a Brahmin boy, but an incarnation of Krishna in the form of a dwarf Brahmin. And Maharaj Bali didn't know where to place the 3rd step, because he said, if that's all you want, I can give you everything, but you only want 3 steps of land. Well, I give that to you. Well, with the 1st step he covered, Lord Krishna covered, Lord Vamanadev covered the lower planets. And with the 2nd step, he covered the heavenly planets, and he went so far that his toe pierced a hole in the covering of the material universe. Now the universes are floating, the material universes are floating in the causal ocean. And when he poked a hole in the universe, some of the causal ocean, which is what Mahavishnu is lying down in, some of the water from the causal ocean is coming through that hole in the universe. It's coming in. So the first place it's going is where was the first place that let's look see where the first place it was flowing is. He extended his left foot to the end of the universe, this is the first verse, and pierced a hole with the nail of his big toe. The pure water of the causal ocean entered the universe as the Ganges River. First it washed the feet of the Lord. Of course, he's got his foot up, and his toenail poked a hole in the universe, and then the causal water came in and washed his feet. Okay, so it washed the lotus feet. And then she also is known as Vishnupadi. Then the water, after 1,000 millenniums, the Ganges water descended on Dhruvaloka. And they called Dhruvaloka Vishnupada. Okay, so that was in the first verse. So the hole in the universe washes the feet of the Lord, descends on Dhruvaloka. Boy, how special is Dhruvaloka? And he's constantly thinking of Krishna. Tears flow from his half-open eyes, and eruptions appear on his body. And he accepts that water on his head with great devotion. So then it's to Dhruvaloka. And now, we're talking about the 7 planets just below Dhruvaloka. So that causal ocean, the Ganges, then purifies the 7 planets near Dhruvaloka. And then that water is carried through the spaceways of the demigods in billions of celestial airplanes, inundates the moon, Chandraloka, and reaches Lord Brahma's abode atop Mount Meru. So billions of celestial airplanes are carrying this water, the Ganges water, the water from the causal ocean, through the spaceways. All right, Prabhupada's commentary. We should always remember that the Ganges water comes from the causal ocean, beyond the covering of the universe. After the water of the causal ocean leaks through the hole created by Lord Vamanadeva, it flows down to Dhruvaloka, the pole star, then to the 7 planets beneath Dhruvaloka. Then it's carried to the moon by innumerable celestial airplanes, and then it falls to the top of Mount Meru, which is known as Sumera Parvata. In this way, the water of the Ganges finally reaches the lower planets and peaks of the Himalayas, from where it flows through Hardwar and throughout the plains of India, purifying the entire land. How the Ganges water reaches the various planets from the top of the universe is explained herein. Celestial airplanes carry the water from the planets of the sages to other planets. So-called advanced scientists of the modern age are trying to go to the higher planets, but at the same time they're experiencing a power shortage on Earth. If they were actually capable scientists, they could go personally go by airplane to other planets, but this they are unable to do. Having now given up their moon excursions, they're attempting to go to other planets, but without success. So, Prabhupada takes a little swing here at the material scientists, and it shouldn't be so difficult to understand and accept that there are celestial airplanes that travel, and there are demigods. Even the material scientists, with their actually quite puny and laughable attempts at machines, mechanical means, try to go to higher planets. But this traveling from planet to planet is there, and the celestial airplanes carry the Ganges water, which is the water from the causal ocean, to the moon. So Ganges is flowing on the moon. And then, from the moon, it falls to the top of Mount Meru. And then it comes down through the Himalayas, the Hardwar, through India, purifying the entire land. Whoa. There's a lot of different dimensions going on here. It's not stuck on the simply gross material plane. There is a subtle plane also. And then, of course, beyond the subtle realm is the transcendental realm, the spiritual realm. So there's a lot going on here. That causal ocean is not a material energy. It's a transcendental, spiritual energy, divine energy of the Lord, the causal ocean. So, text 5. On top of Mount Meru, the Ganges divides into 4 branches, each of which gushes in a different direction, east, west, north, and south. These branches, known by the names Sita, Alakananda, Chakshu, and Bhadra, flow down to the ocean. Text 6. The branches of the Ganges, known as Sita, flows through Brahmapuri, atop Mount Meru. And from there it runs down to the nearby peaks of the Kesarachala Mountains, which stand almost as high as Mount Meru itself. These mountains are like a bunch of filaments around Mount Meru. From the Kesarachala Mountains, the Ganges falls to the peak of Gandhamadana Mountain, and then flows into the land of Bhadrasvar Varsa. Finally, it reaches the ocean of salt water in the west. Wow, the descent of the Ganges, coming from a really high place. Text 7. The branch of the Ganges known as Chakshu falls out to the summit of Malyavan Mountain, and from there cascades onto the land of Ketumala Varsha. The Ganges flows incessantly through Ketumala Varsha, and in this way also reaches the ocean of salt water in the west. So this descent of the Ganges is purifying. Wherever the Ganges flows, purifies. So this is all purifying everything. The branch of the Ganges known as Bhadra flows from the northern side of Mount Meru. Its waters fall on the peaks of Kamuda Mountain, Mount Nila, Sweta Mountain, and Shringavan Mountain in succession. Then it runs down into the province of Kuru, and after crossing that land flows into the saltwater ocean in the north. It's cascading onto the peaks. You can see it cascading down like waterfalls. Text 9. Similarly, the branch of the Ganges known as Alakananda flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri, Brahmasadhana, passes over the tops of mountains in various lands. It falls down with fierce force upon the peaks of the mountains Hemakuta and Himakuta. After inundating the tops of those mountains, the Ganges falls down onto the tract of land known as Bhartavarsa, which she also inundates. Then the Ganges flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are fortunate. It's not very difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing great sacrifices like Rajasuya and Ashvamedha yagnas. So that's the Ganges that if we go to India, we can bathe in that Ganges. Prabhupada's commentary. The place where the Ganges flows into the salt water of the Bay of Bengal is still known as Ganga Sagara, or the meeting place of the Ganges and the Bay of Bengal. On Makara Sankranti, in the month of January-February, thousands of people still go there to bathe, hoping to be liberated. That they can actually be liberated in this way is confirmed herein. For those who bathe in the Ganges at any time, the results of great sacrifices like Ashvamedha and Rajasuya sacrifices are not at all difficult to achieve. Most people in India are still inclined to bathe in the Ganges, and there are many places where they can do so. At Prayag, Allahabad, many thousands of people gathered during the month of January to bathe in the confluence of the Ganges and the Yamuna. Afterward, many of them go to the confluence of the Bay of Bengal and the Ganges to take bath there. Thus it is a special facility for all the people of India that they can bathe in the water of the Ganges at so many places of pilgrimage. Yeah, how special India is. Ganges is flowing through India. The causal ocean is flowing through India. Yeah, there shouldn't be any confusion about how special India is. The incarnations of the Lord appear there, pastimes appear there, Krishna appears there, or Chaitanya appears there. The causal ocean is flowing through India. Text 10. Many other rivers, both big and small, flow from the top of Mount Meru. These rivers are like daughters of the mountain, and they flow to various tracts of land in hundreds of branches. Many other rivers. I don't know if they're rivers of the Ganges or they're just rivers. But there's a lot of water coming out of Mount Meru. Text 11. Among the 9 Varshas, the tract of land known as Bharata Varsha is understood to be the field of fruitive activities. Learned scholars and saintly persons declare the other 8 Varshas to be meant for highly elevated pious persons. After returning from the heavenly planets, they enjoy the remaining results of their pious activities in these 8 earthly Varsas. Bharata Varsa is the field of fruitive activities. There are 9 Varsas in Bharata Varsa. Is the field of fruitive activity. The other 8 are for highly elevated pious persons. They enjoy the remaining results of their pious activities in these 8 earthly Varsas after they come back from the heavenly planets. That's the karmi's fruitive activity, that's karma. So what's left over from all the pious activity they accrued by all their fruitive activity, let them go to the heavenly planets. But after they can't stay in the heavenly planets anymore, they don't come directly to Earth, to Bharata Varsa. They go to the other 8, one of the other 8 Varsas, and live out the remains of their good karma there. Prabhupada's commentary. The heavenly places of enjoyment are divided into 3 groups. Celestial heavenly planets, heavenly places on earth, and Bila heavenly places, which are found in lower regions. Yeah. Because there's a description later on of the subterranean hellish planets, but the description isn't at all hellish. The description is quite nice, actually. And it was always a little confusing. Why was it called subterranean hellish planet? Well, it wasn't hellish. I mean, by material standards, it was quite opulent. And there are different heavenly places of enjoyment. Celestial, earthly, and lower regions. There are actually heavenly planets in the lower regions, relatively speaking. Among these 3 classes of heavenly places, Bhoma, Swarga, Padani, the heavenly places on earth are the 8 Varshas other than Bharata Varsha. Any place else but here is considered a heavenly earthly place. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Shine punye marchilokam vishanti. When the persons living in the heavenly planets exhaust the results of their pious activities, they return to this earth. In this way, they're elevated to the heavenly planets, and then they fall again to the earthly planets. This process is known as Brahmanda Brahmana, wandering up and down throughout the universes. Those who are intelligent, in other words, those who have not lost their intelligence, do not involve themselves in this process of wandering up and down. They take to devotional service of the Lord so that they can ultimately penetrate the covering of the universe and enter the spiritual kingdom. Then they are situated on one of the planets known as Vaikuntha, or still higher, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. The devotee is never caught in the process of being promoted to the heavenly planets and again coming down. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, E rupe brahmanda brahmite konya bhagavan jeev, Guru Krishna prasadi pai bhakti lata beach. Among all the living entities wandering throughout the universe, one who is most fortunate comes in contact with a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus gets the opportunity to execute devotional service. Those who are sincerely seeking the favor of Krishna come in contact with a guru, a bona fide representative of Krishna. The Mayavadis indulging in mental speculation and the karmis desiring the results of their actions cannot become gurus. A guru must be a direct representative of Krishna who distributes the instructions of Krishna without any change. Thus, only the most fortunate persons come in contact with a guru. Yeah, so that's Srila Prabhupada. He is that bona fide representative of Krishna. And by hearing from him, reading his Bhagavatam, translation of Bhagavatam, and hearing his commentaries, then we come in contact with the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by hearing like that is actually devotional service. Hearing is devotional service. Chanting is devotional. So we come in contact with the divine energy. And there is a practical mission to spread Krishna consciousness. And so whatever a person can do in terms of if they have youthful energy, they can help establish temples, distribute books, prepare prasadam, or give donations, work hard, maintain a family or whatever, and give as much as they can to help the movement. Can go on Sankirtan, chant the holy name in the street. Very nice. It's a lot to do to spread Krishna consciousness, to help other people come in contact with the divine energy. So, it starts with meeting the representative of the Lord, the Guru. And that's what we're doing here. We're in contact with the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, representative of Krishna. Thus, only the most fortunate persons come in contact with the Guru. So, we're fortunate, most fortunate. As confirmed in Vedic literatures, Tag Vinanartam Sagurum Eva Bigachet, Samit Pani Shrotiyam Brahmanishtam. Oh, Prabhupada quotes this verse all the time. Just within the last chapter or two, must have seen this verse at least 5, 6, maybe 7 times. It's from the Mundaka Upanishad. The translation is, to understand these things properly, one must humbly approach, with firewood in hand, a spiritual master who is learned in the Vedas and firmly devoted to the absolute truth. So what's with the firewood? Well, that's the offering. Because to perform the sacrifice, you must give some fuel for the sacrifice. Should approach prepared to contribute to the sacrifice. And that can be done by chanting Hare Krishna. And then if someone gets some special instruction from the Guru, that's very nice. But that's the firewood. And the Sankirtan Yagna is the blazing fire of sacrifice for this age. Let's become prepared to take part, to give some fuel to the sacrifice. One has to search out a guru to understand the affairs of the spiritual world. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms this point. Tasmat gurum prapadyata jignasu shreya uttamam. One who is very interested in understanding the activities in the spiritual world must search out a guru, bona fide representative of Krishna. From all angles of vision, therefore, the word guru is especially meant for the bona fide representative of Krishna and no one else. Padma Purāṇa states, Avaishnavo guru nasyat, one who is not a Vaishnav, who is not a representative of Krishna, cannot be a guru. Even the most qualified Brahmin cannot become a guru if he's not a representative of Krishna. Brahmins are supposed to acquire 6 kinds of auspicious qualifications. They become very learned scholars, very qualified teachers, expert in worshiping the Lord or the demigods, and teach others how to execute this worship. They qualify themselves as bona fide persons to receive alms from others, and they distribute the wealth in charity. Yet even a Brahmin possessing these qualifications cannot become a guru unless he's the representative of Krishna. Guru Nashat. Vaishnava swapacho guru. But a Vaishnav, a bona fide representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, can become a guru, even if he is swapacha, a member of a family of dog-eaters. Of the 3 divisions of heavenly planets, Swarga Loka, Bharma Swarga is sometimes accepted as the tract of land in Bharatavarsha known as Kashmir. Those statements so revolutionary, a very revolutionary statement, that even a Brahmin who is so qualified with all Brahminical qualities cannot become a guru if he's not a Vaishnav. Even though he's engaged and knows perfectly how to worship the deities, the Lord and the demigod, and they can teach others how to worship, even a Brahmin like that cannot become a guru unless he's actually a representative of Krishna. Which means he's embodying the divine energy, the devotional energy of the Lord, that the Lord is pleased by his devotion and is manifest within that devotee. It's an internal quality. A transformation that takes place when one takes shelter of the divine energy, the devotional energy. Srimati Radharani. But someone who has no qualifications, materially or externally, is a member of the lowest caste, outcasts actually, dog-eaters. If he has that transformation, it doesn't mean he's doing bad things, but it means he may be a member of such a family. Prahlad Maharaj was a member of such a family. His father was a huge demon. But Prahlad was a saintly devotee who was fully transformed by devotional service. They can become a guru. So this was very obvious in Prabhupada's traveling and preaching. It was very obvious that he was bringing this transformation to the offspring of the demons and the non-devotees. They were becoming transformed. Members of families that are outcasts, have nothing to do with the Vedic culture at all. He was transforming members of those families, the young children, people, the young adults of those families are being transformed by contact with a real guru. Someone who is a real representative of Krishna, a pure devotee. So, and Prabhupada goes on here and he starts to discuss about the geography again and different aspects. He said, the three divisions of the heavenly planets, Svarga Loka. One division, Bhoma Svarga, is sometimes accepted as the tract of land in Bharatavarsha known as Kashmir. In this region there are certainly good facilities for material sense enjoyment, but this is not the business of a pure transcendentalist. Rupa Goswami describes the engagement of a pure transcendentalist as follows. Anyabala sita sunyam jnana karma navritam anakulyena krishnanu silanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably, without desire for material profit or gain, through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. Those who fully engage in devotional service to Krishna, just to please him, are not interested in three divisions of heavenly places, Divyaloka, Bhāmasvarga, and Bilasvarga. Yeah. Kashmir says that is there's the three heavenly places, celestial planets, and then there are heavenly places on the earthly planet, and then there are heavenly in Bhartavarsa, and then there are heavenly places in the lower regions. So they have one of the heavenly places on the earthly planet is this Kashmir province. But devotees are not interested in heavenly places. They're interested in spiritual places, beyond heaven, beyond hell, beyond material nature, beyond birth and death, beyond old age and disease, beyond the beyond. Krishna, not interested in liberation, not interested in heavenly planets, not interested in mystic powers, only interested in Krishna, the divine energy, devotional energy. Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada. We never tire of hearing your ambrosial words. Hare Krishna. Eternally indebted to Srila Prabhupada.